G'day, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The List. We are in draft week. We are only 2 days away. If I got my math right, it has been a long day, so if I didn't, I apologize. And back from Mania week, back from Vegas. Jordan is back joining us. How was it? How was Vegas? How was Mania?
Vegas was great. Mania was great up until the last 2 minutes of it. But yeah, it's been great. It's funny that it's draft week, which is usually my favorite week of the year. The Heat have a playoff game tonight. The Panthers have a playoff game tonight, or the Heat have a playoff game tomorrow. The Panthers have a playoff game tonight. It's WrestleMania weekend. There's a lot happening right now, but I want 2 minutes of wrestling. First of all, I want to talk about WrestleMania. Vegas was a great time. I thought I went to 4 or 5 different events. Mania Night 1 was a lot of fun. The energy was hot. There were people on social media that were talking about, and Brett, I don't know how much of it you watched, and I don't know what you thought, but there were a lot of people talking about the crowd Saturday night in Mania. What'd you think about? I mean, from a watcher's perspective, how did the crowd come off to you?
So I didn't see it live. What I heard was a lot of people said that Saturday needed The Rock, and he wasn't there. And a lot of people said, from what I've seen, that was the big complaint, is it just felt slow and prodding. Yeah, all I really saw was highlights, and the crowd seemed fine to me. I just think Vegas, watching wrestling events in Vegas, they do not have the best volume arenas, I will say.
For sure. I think that overall, and I'd have to go back and watch, but I feel like noise doesn't travel as well in stadiums as it does in certain arenas where it's even if there's a lot less people, the noise is contained and it comes off and is perceived on TV as louder. But it was, to me, loud in the stadium. And I thought night 2, I love that John Cena won the championship. I love that he's now going to be, if you haven't watched Raw from last night, please pause this right now and fast forward about 15 seconds. I am very happy that John Cena's next feud is going to be with Randy Orton. What I don't like is after a 3-year run for Roman Reigns and a year run for Cody Rhodes, that the title is cost because of Travis Scott. I think Travis Scott's very talented at what he does. I just think a celebrity coming in shouldn't be. If he would have been earlier on the card, I think I said in a tweet, a lot like Bad Bunny, who came in, who worked hard, who was in the middle of the card. I mean, that's one thing. But I think the main event of WrestleMania should be left for the performers. And I thought that fell way short, especially with The Rock not coming. It fell way short of what it could have been.
And you said you were at the roast on Saturday night too. Was that Sunday or was that a different day?
That was Sunday night. The roast was Sunday night. And look, I've seen a lot on social media today about the roast. I think that the people, what I'll say is I think it's fucked up to go into an event asking people to be their genuine selves and asking people to put away their phones so these guys can be their genuine selves, and then recording them and posting that they're saying things they shouldn't be saying. I think the people that are doing that have never seen a roast in their life. I think roasts are supposed to be those type of stabby jokes at the people that are up there, at the people that are coming, at the profession as a whole. And I think that it was just taken way out of proportion. I had a lot of fun. I thought that the jokes were funny. I saw guys come out of their shell. I saw guys do things that on stage that they probably wouldn't have done if they thought there were cameras on them. And I saw guys as kind of them genuine selves, and that was fun to see. And it's terrible to see in the last 24 hours on social media how out of proportion that was taken. So, yeah. Brett, that's exactly 5 minutes and 12 seconds. And I told you I needed 5 minutes of wrestling time. So I'll give you the extra 12 seconds to talk about anything you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say right now. My week week in work has gotten very busy. So just getting through that. Positive vibes for both of us. I just had a job interview today for a promotion. You said you have good things on the horizon too. So stuff for us is changing and hopefully changing for the better altogether.
And speaking of change,
no, we're not. I know where you're going. We're not going into that.
No, I wasn't. I was going to make it a Dolphins thing.
Okay.
That's all I was. Where did you think I was going to go?
Never mind. Just go Dolphins.
I was going to say that the Miami Dolphins are going to introduce some new players on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. That is all I was going to say, Brett.
Okay. Speaking of which, because you weren't here last week, you missed all the Jalen Ramsey talk. My response is basically, I don't care. I think they just like what they have gotten when it comes to an idea of what they could get for Ramsey. And that's pretty much it. And that he asked for a raise and they said no. That's basically where my mind goes.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I hope that between now and kind of the time it comes to make a trade that the Dolphins and Ramsey can come to some sort of agreement and bring him back. I think that it would be very hard to get both a cornerback 1 and a cornerback 2 that we feel comfortable with between now and the time of the season. But if not, I hope that we can get something similar to what we gave, which is a third and a player. But getting a third back, getting a fourth back, I think is definitely doable. Happy birthday to Critic. Thank you for sharing even a moment of your birthday with us.
Absolutely. Happy birthday. And we are going to go ahead and get into draft stuff. Now, I sent this to you earlier, Jordan, and for anybody joining us, I don't know who all has seen this, but PFF, Trevor Sikema, I believe his name is. I believe he used to be with the Draft Network.
Yes, he did.
Went out of his way, and he did a top 100 board for every team. So we're going to look at what he did for the Dolphins.
I would love to know, and I'm sure that his top 100 kind of stayed the same in the same area for each team. He just changed it based on positional need. But God, how much work this probably took to fully put together.
Yep. Critic, you will not be getting that, I don't. Oh, Shiloh Sanders. I read that as Shadur for a second. You might get Shiloh on day 3. I don't know if you're getting him in round 2. Like you said, round 2, I don't think that's happening.
Okay, I will say this, and nobody's listening, so nobody will blow this out of proportion. I think that Shiloh Sanders getting drafted is more of a disgrace than Bronny James being drafted in the NBA. To me, he's not a draftable player.
He was at one point. I think he's like a late day 3 guy, but it's fair enough.
So back to the Dolphins. Who does Sikema have us?
So first, how he has it set up is you look at, he has it listed as the coaches, the alignment. I'm shocked we went into shotgun only 50.8% of the time. Has the run concept, so we run zone most of the time. Has our passing personnel 21, 22, and 11, which is true. And then he has the defense lines set up. So then how he has it broken down is into primary need, secondary need. I'm going to mispronounce this, ancillary need and no need. So he says we don't need a running back. I would actually disagree with that.
No, you said that pretty accurately.
Oh, yay me. I don't agree with running back not being a need. I still think we do need a running back. So that's
that was one of the few things I disagreed with on there. I think running back should have been an ancillary need. I think a Y tight end might even be a secondary need. Running back might even be as high as a secondary need because of how much we used 3 backs last year. And I still not convinced that Alexander Madison's one of those guys. So,
we don't even know what Jalen Wright is yet.
Right. So I think there's definitely a chance the Dolphins at some point in the draft look at the running back position, especially with how deep it is in this draft. There are a lot of guys that I would take on this team's running back position.
Okay. So look what he has as our primary needs. He has zone OG, so zone offensive guard. I'd agree there. 3-4 DE, so we do basically run that, but you can basically add 3-4 D and 3 tech DT together.
Yes.
On nose tackle, I'd say we do need a nose tackle, but I think we can move that down. Box safety, I would put in a secondary need. And then wide zone corner and wide man corner. So I agree with his. I agree with his. For the most part, his primary needs.
Yeah, I think like you said, you could mix the 3 technique and the 3-4 DE. But essentially, you need 2 players there, so you can separate them because they are each their own individual player. So essentially, what I see here is a guard, 3 defensive linemen, and 2 corners, and some think a safety. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. And we're going to talk about the same guys. We would be nitpicking if we wanted to put one in the other category. The only one I really disagree with, like you said, is running back.
Okay, secondary need quarterback. I think everybody knows this isn't a thing about Tua. It's we need a second string or a developmental quarterback.
Right.
Zach Wilson will probably be fine, but you need that third guy. You can't get worse than Skylar Thompson as that number 3 guy. So I think that's fair. Man gap guard. So it's basically just saying maybe roll the dice on a bigger guard. Zone center, I would actually move down because Brewer was so good this year, and we do have Myers still. Zone OT, yeah. Z wide receiver.
Yeah, I almost think that center is almost a no need.
That, yeah.
Like I think if I'm gonna pick something here that's a no need, yeah, that might be it.
Okay. And then ancillary need, man gap guard, tackle. Nickel defender, I would actually put higher, just because it sounds like they're going to move Cater outside.
Hold on, Brad. Important news. Our dog toy said hello to us, so we'll stop for a moment and say hello to him.
What's up, Krusty?
There we go. We have acknowledged. And our Discord, Twitter, would like to know who are we taking in round 1. So why don't we get down to those guys of need? Can you do me a favor as you scroll down to that top 100 board? Let's just zoom in a little bit on those players so that we can see where we're going.
Okay. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So then now you see how it's broken up. You have the number 1 player, the position, the team's primary need, and what level they play. I would say the first 3 guys we have no shot at.
And it's looking like the first 4 we have no shot at. Because it's really looking like Will Campbell might go 4 to the Patriots.
Yeah, that's possible. Although I did see news, I don't know how reliable it is, but apparently there is a tweet out there that says, provided Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter go 2 and 3, that the Patriots and Bears do have a deal in place so the Bears can go up and get Genty.
Yeah. I did see that earlier. I think that I just don't know if moving up for a running back, no matter how good you think the running back is, especially in a deep class like this, I don't know. I just can't see it. What I could see is that becoming a rumor that gets the Raiders to trade up to 4 to take them, or something like that. But the Bears, they have a need at left tackle. They have a couple needs on the defensive side of the ball. While Genty would be really nice, I think that going with one of those defensive guys or that left tackle and then getting a running back at one of your 2 second-round picks, I think that's the easier move if you're Chicago. But if you love a guy like Genty and you're Ben Johnson and you really think that he's Jahmyr Gibbs, you're sure about it, then sure, make the trade.
Yep. 5, I will still say I think is the number 1 guy for us, Will Johnson, if he's available. Look, I know there have been questions about his injuries and his knee. I'm not even going to point out that the guy reporting his knee's in bad shape, Albert Breer, who is very respectable, but he's an Ohio State grad, so I am not even going to point that out. Will Johnson, I just think the top-end talent is just too good to pass up if he's there, so I will still beat the drum that he would be the number 1 guy on our board available, especially if he's available. Walter Nolan's an interesting one. Really any of the D tackles, and I see Harmon's been brought up. Harmon, Grant, and Nolan, I'm interested to see where you fall on this now. Jordan, but they all kind of just, you can make a case for any of the three, and I'd be fine with it. I do
Yeah.
think I personally think it's Grant, Harmon, Nolan, though.
If I had to rank them, I think I'm going Grant, Nolan, Harmon. But I think that Nolan and Harmon can be flip flopped. I mean, if you and our admin is saying Harmon, Grant, Nolan, like I don't think there's a wrong order. I think any order you put them, you can look at it and say, okay, based on what you want, that's fine. For me, I'm just more of a Kenneth Grant guy. But I also think that because we're talking about that group like that, and because, again, the same thing I've said the last couple of times we've talked about this, the drafting a defensive tackle there is going to look like a reach. Kuiper is going to say it's a little bit of a reach. The something football, you can put in the name that starts with a W at the beginning. We'll say, oh, it was a Matt Millen pick, whatever. But in reality, when we redraft this in a year, in 2 years, 3 years, whichever player we take as defensive tackle 1 and probably defensive tackle 2 and 3 are going to be redrafted higher than they're taken. So that means it's a good pick. But based on everything I just said, I think that if you are picking one of those defensive tackles at 13 and you have them relatively closely ranked, you should be doing everything in your power to move down to 16 or 17 or 18.
If you can. I would love to have someone
on. And I think you would even take something, wink, wink, you don't tell other teams this, but I would take something a little under slot in order to get one of those guys a couple picks later, even if you're only getting a third-round pick or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you got to accept that that there is going to be an issue.
But can I ask you this, Brett? Because we're talking about it, and Mr. S is there saying that Harmon's the best player for him, but why is Harmon on this list ranked 29th overall when that's a defensive big need for us, and Walter Nolan's ranked 6th and Kenneth Grant's ranked 7th?
Yeah, and just to go with the best player available, look, I'm
saying that. What is it about Harmon, do you think? I mean, we're saying one side, let's see the other. Why is it that he's 20 spots lower on this specific list than the other two?
Honest answer, and I was reading NFL Draft Blitz has a good breakdown of it. The question becomes: he was a 1-year wonder. He was at Michigan State before going to Oregon, and the talent was noticeable at Michigan State, but he was very inconsistent, taking out plays very easily. He was dominant for Oregon this year. Now, so you can say, hey, that's all talent, or that's better coaching, and talent's coming through. But the talk becomes, is he a 1-year wonder? Like, there's a bunch of ways to look at it. But I think he just had such a far way to go because of where he was preseason that it could be a lot of people are behind him. Behind on him, or it could just be that people remember him or just judging him by Sparty rather than Oregon.
Yeah, no, and look, this is not to knock Harmon. I'm just raising the question for somebody that's looking at this list and seeing that one guy's 20 spots different than the other guy. So it's just posing the question of what the potential negatives can be. I mean, as our admin saying, Harmon has a lot of good attributes about him, a lot of good attributes, and he would fit Anthony Weaver's defense really well. I think any of the three, you could make a case that they would and fit perfectly on this team. I'm just posing the question of what the other side of it is. And as for this almost made me laugh on camera because this feels like Inception. Are you saying that the list that we're looking at is wrong, or are you calling yourself wrong? Or are you calling us wrong? Yep. Which level of list is being called wrong?
So I will say this is I think I do question how much PFF has actually updated their rankings this year. If anybody's used their draft simulator, they tend to be very far behind. And looking at a lot of their list, I question some of it. Like, I know he's listed as ancillary, but Tyler Warren is now 22.
This list is in the list we're looking at, or this list, speaking in the first person about yourself, the list is in the one we're looking at, or the list is in the name of our Twitter. Thank you. All right, continue, Brett. I'll stop derailing.
Yeah, they have Tyler Warren listed as 22 on here because he's ancillary. And there's a lot of people on this board I would not, like, even if it's considered a need, I would not take over Tyler Warren. I'd love Gray Zabel, however you pronounce it, especially in round 2. But if we traded down, I would love him. But I don't think he'd be number 11 on our big board. Honestly, if you want to, like, I think if you're looking, because some people you also got to realize, yes, it's top 100, but we have no shot at Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, outside shot at Will Campbell. I think you got to look.
I totally agree that Zabel is too rich at 13.
Yeah,
I think that's way too early. Even if all 3 of the top offensive linemen are gone, which I'm a little bit lower on Banks than other people, I think Campbell and Membu have a little bit of a leg up on him. But I think if all 3 of them are gone, and any of which I'd be okay with, I think you got to go in a different direction. That means if all 3 of them are gone, that means that there's a stud defensive player on the board.
Yep. And Calvin Banks has kind of been a forgotten man. We were on him earlier, then we kind of forgot about him. It does sound like his floor might be 10. So I would consider Calvin Banks again too, because I think he's a plug and play left guard right away in our system. Just going down the list a little bit, we'll go from what's that? You see 10 to 30 there. Cam Ward shouldn't even be on a list. Like, we're not going quarterback in round 1.
Yeah, but I think that, look, the first 13 players, one of them have to be there. And I think that's saying that the next best player is Cam Ward.
Yeah.
And I think that if Cam Ward was there at 13, something went horribly wrong and we should possibly look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's more about Cam Ward, and I would love to have him as a backup quarterback than it is about what I think about our quarterback.
Yep. And all these ads are popping up, so I do apologize for that. That is a PFF thing. But any other names stick out for you?
Brett, do you Zin?
I do not.
Okay, neither do I. I've never done it. It's the ad, so
yeah.
I was supported.
Yep. So any other names stick out there that you would consider looking at, even if a trade down or in maybe round 2?
If we're looking at this list, I mean, obviously a lot of people want one of the safeties. And I think that's fine. But I think if you're talking about not taking a cornerback at round 1, whether it's Barron or Will Johnson, I was getting the Wills confused. I think you have to hope that at 48, either Maxwell Harrison, Benjamin Morrison, Trey Amos, one of those guys are there. I think you have to come out of one of the first 2 days with a corner, and I think you even have to come out of the first 2 rounds with a corner. So if you don't go corner round 2, you're kind of stuck in a little bit of a hole where you have to. Or if you don't take one in round 1, you're stuck in round 2. And I think that if you take a corner in round 1, I think you open yourself up, because I think you could still take your first defensive tackle at 98. But I think that one of those other positions of need, whether it's a safety, whether it's a wide receiver, if you're moving Jalen Ramsey, it might be a second cornerback, like we did back in the day with Vontae Davis and Sean Smith. So I think that in round 2, though, the first names that you have to look at are one of those corners. And I think that you stopped the screen right when I saw RJ Harvey, who should be a lot higher on that list.
Yeah. I do think, like I said, running back should be on the list. Candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker.
Okay.
Yeah. Gray Zabel is too rich at 13. I would agree with that, like you said earlier. It is draft week, so we are talking about that. We are going to go a little bit more into some of the positions that we like. We have been talking about D tackle for a long time. I think we all know about that. I think at 10 or 13, I think most people at this point, and Jordan, I think you, just to confirm, you'll probably be on this. It's more than likely Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron, if I'd have to guess in your mind, right?
If I had to guess today, yeah. Yeah. Do you I'm okay with Barron at 13. I would be ecstatic with Will Johnson at 13. And I even look, if the Bears want to talk about moving up, maybe they want to move down to 13. I'd give them, 118 that we have back there to move up 3 spots.
Yeah, I just don't buy into and I will say this right now, I do not buy into the corner that Will Johnson is. I would say Will Johnson is closer to number 1 corner than number 3 that some people were doing.
And he's saying that he's hurt, which makes him a perfect candidate for Chris Grier.
I do not care. Call me a homer. I don't care. Will Johnson is one of the top 5 players in this draft. If you get a shot at him, you gamble on him being healthy. Otherwise, what's going to happen in a year, people are going to be going, oh, look at Chris Grier. He drafted a corner with low upside and passed on Will Johnson when Will Johnson has 5 to 6 interceptions. So I do not care if he's injured. You gamble on the talent.
Brett, we don't know each other that well. Are you a Michigan fan or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, okay. So for everybody, it's 26 minutes and 36 seconds in.
I didn't even say
learned, along with our Miami Dolphins Discord friends, that Brett is a Michigan fan. We should have a soundboard with a sound that we can play when we learn that Brett is a Michigan fan.
But anyway, besides that, if we don't go corner round 1.
If we don't go corner, give me the other Michigan player that I want to add to this defense, is what Brett said.
I was just going to say, who would be your next corner available? Because for the longest time, one of the guys I've been going out, and I see Ghost in the chat, so I know this. I'm pretty sure these next 2 guys are people him and the Dive Bar have talked about recently too. Noel Williams from California and Zoff Frazier have been 2 guys I've been mocking a lot to the Dolphins round 3 or 4. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like either of them will be there. Same with Trey Amos from Ole Miss. But who are some other guys you would look at in day 2, day 3 at corner if we do not get one round 1?
You almost can't miss one in round 1. I think that corner's a little bit of a position that drops off a little bit. You talked about Maxwell Harrison. I think that he jumps the top. And when we looked at the PFF big board, Trey Amos and Maxwell Harrison were 2 guys that were really high. I think they were in the top 20 kind of on that list of players. I think Darian Porter is another guy there, a lot of size. And I think that when you start talking about what Anthony Weaver is going to look for in that cornerback position, I think you're going to look for guys with size, guys that are long, especially if we're going to be replacing Ramsey. So those would be a couple guys. I know Kobe Bryant is another name. I know Jacob Parrish is a name that Kevin Fielder is high on. And we love Dorian Strong is another guy. So I think there are a number of guys you can get. But I think that you would almost have to reach on a guy, especially if you want a guy that's going to jump down in the 3rd or 4th round. I don't want one of those guys that I named at the end there to start. I want one of the top guys. I want an Amos. I want a Harrison. I want a Johnson. I want a Barron. And you have to have one at 13 or 14.
Yeah. Mr. S, go ahead and send that over to me, and we can take a look at that. I think there's a lot of outside guys who look really well. I know we've had a couple Nichols in, guy from Western Kentucky. I know Kevin liked.
That's an interesting thought, and we'll get back to Ghost's comment when we go to the interior offensive line. But what if we draft a guy that's a nickel and just put Cater on the outside? Personally, I would rather.
I think if you draft Barron, I think that's the idea.
Are we comfortable with that? I am. I think I would prefer to have an outside guy and leave Cater to his strength, but I would also be totally okay with giving him a shot at the outside. Now, what I'll say is I wouldn't be okay giving him a shot as our number 1 corner, but I think I'd be okay if it's Ramsey, him, and Barron. I think I'm okay with that.
Okay, and I'm trying to work on Krabs's. I'm just downloading his board for us, but you can go ahead and bring up. Ghost's
Ghost
comment.
asked, does Chris Greer draft more interior offensive linemen than there were police reports this past weekend?
That's a reference you will not get because
because I was at WrestleMania all weekend, and I would love for you to fill me in on this.
This is one I only know because the guy started. Someone who apparently filed a police report on everybody messaged
on everybody.
Well, anybody who knows Ghost, and apparently everybody's a burner for him. But he messaged.
Oh, you know what?
Saw the message.
I did see the messages. Someone said they got doxxed.
What is going on right now?
Someone said they got doxxed.
Yeah.
Okay, so funny story, and our producer's gonna love this one. When I saw somebody post that they got doxxed, I immediately went to look to make sure it wasn't us.
Funny enough, the first thing I thought about was IMing him and being like, "What did you do?" I did not go to Ghost at all. I immediately was like, "What did you do?"
Oh, I didn't want to do it. So I read for a second, and then I realized, okay, this has nothing to do with us. I'll catch up on Monday, and now it's Tuesday. I saw some of that. If there was one police report, then I totally think it's going to be the same number. So I think we take one interior offensive lineman. But if there's more than one, then I think it's going to be the under.
Yeah. I will not be able to pull up Crab's big board because it's not going well on my screen. So
Brett, can I get defense that I am not in the wrong for assuming that there was a chance we had something to do with it?
I wonder why you're catching straight.
Come on, man. Go ahead. Come on. And there were 200 people in the police report, which lead me to believe that we should probably stop talking about it on the air.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I don't think the police report's real, but anyway, on to Ghost's question to go with that. Since I'm done giving Mr. S sending strays his way. I think 48 is prime. I think we're drafting at least a starter in round 2. You'll hear me keep saying Marcus Mbo the whole time, or the Arizona offensive guard. But I think for what we want to run, Brett, we can get a starter as late as round 5.
Pull up his name and say it. Pull up his name and say it on air.
Jonah Savanea.
Okay. So Brett thinks there's a chance that we take Marcus and Bo or
Jonah Savanea.
Yeah, keep going.
But I'll tell you what, you have both the Georgia guards, Fairchild and Tate Rutledge. They could both be there in round 2 or 3. Jackson Slater is a guy who from Sacramento State, I think could start from day 1. He's a 4th round guy. I know a lot of people, Mason, Kentley Platt, shout out Raspom. They all love Chase Lunt, UConn tackle, who's projects inside to guard. He's probably going to be a 5th round pick, and I think he could start. If
another guy, I remember it might have been Mason, because I know we talked more offensive lineman with Mason than we did with Kent. But I think Mason also really liked Miles Frazier. Luke Kandra is another guy that I think is a good scheme fit. So, yeah, there are a number of guys that I think we could plug and play, which is why I think one of those guys might be available at 98. I think you have to get a corner, which in reality, do you think you have to go corner and interior offensive line round 1 and 2 and then go from there?
I think the board,
in whatever order.
I think the board sets up best that way. I would probably go corner round 1. Honestly, as much as I love people like Harmon and Grant, I almost would probably now have my number 3 is Kelvin Banks. That's just something I started thinking about recently. But I think it's setting up well that the best player on the board round 2 will either be a guard or a D tackle.
Yeah, and I think that if you can get Grant, who's my top defensive tackle, again, let's say it's 16 or 17, or even at 13, I like that over Barron. I like the idea of Grant Amos, let's say, over the
I don't think
idea.
He's probably going in the first, Amos.
Hairston.
Probably first as well.
Okay, which is, again, to me, once we start doing this, which is why we need to just take a corner on the first.
We will not be doing a mock today, but I can get your thread up. We are going to save the mock for tomorrow.
Yes. We'll remind people at the end, but we are doing Dolphin stuff today, mock tomorrow, live reaction after the pick Thursday, and then day 2 recap Saturday morning leading into day 3. I believe is our plan. But yeah, the mock will be most of the episode tomorrow. Yeah, but we could put his thread on the screen if you'd like.
Yep, I'm pulling it up. Now, shout out to Mr. S. He is a pain in the ass, but he does do good work when it comes to the draft. So
he does.
I will not agree with all of his picks here, but I'll be more than happy to share. So his number one guy, and he is a certified rasshole, is Derek Harmon. I'm fine with him. He's in my top 5 for us.
I want to be clear that I said that our producer is great around draft time, and that's what I agreed to, and did not agree when you said he's a pain in the ass. I want to just be clear.
Oh, you don't have to. I tell him that every day. I tell him he's a pain in the ass.
I was just going on the record.
Yeah. I will call him a pain in the ass every day.
No, you called him a rascal.
Yeah, and I called him a rascal too. I call him that every day as well. So Derek Harmon, again, negative for me. He's a former Sparty. That's
shout out Cantley Platt.
But penetrating 3 tech, yes. You need me to there we go. Elite quickness, yeah. Outstanding hand usage, relentless motor, and good run defender. Now, have you noticed how the guy he wants more than ever does not have any negatives?
And he got really mad at me when I brought up some of the negatives.
Yeah. You are a rasshole. You are a rass whore, whatever you want to call yourself. You are definitely that. But yes, and I will always do that. I just saw the private message. You are I'm laughing. Jahdae Barron. So I will say this. Jahdae Barron is my number 2 behind Will Johnson. I think he's a great player. I just do not think he is Will Johnson. Elite speed and closing burst, yes. Smooth mover. I'll take your word for it. Can play man and zone. I think he translates more to a nickel player for us, which I don't want to downplay because nickel corner is definitely a really important position, and I don't think people realize that. His instincts are good. I've noticed him more in run defense and quick pass game. Older prospect, yes. 24 during the season is a concern. Anything you want to add to that?
I think that being 24 during the season is a big issue, especially at that position. And I think that also being a guy that you're not sure if you can play on the outside is a problem. So I think that when you're looking at that in a little grouping like that, those are 2 big worrisome things when you're looking at Jahdae Barron with a premium pick at 13 that you can't miss on.
Yep. Number 3, you have Kenneth Grant. Nose tackle build with surprising quickness. Yes, I will say this. I was very surprised that Kenneth Grant did not test out better than he did. He is a very good run stuffer, strong point of attack. I would say he's actually a better pass rusher than he is a run defender. Not that he's bad at all as a run defender, but he definitely, from my point of view, he does need to work on his technique a little bit, and he can get washed out in the run game a bit because he's a little – he plays like he's an under tackle in a 4-3 a little bit too much at times, so he can be taken out. But the potential's there. I'm seeing more people say he's better than Mason Graham, which no, he's not. Let's be clear about that. Not even close. But that's just because Mason Graham's that good. But yeah, no, Kenneth Grant. This is pretty good. I would just say he's probably not as good of a run stuffer as people give him credit for.
Brett, let me pause here and ask you this: how high up do you start calling when Kenneth Grant or when Mason Graham's available? Are you calling it 4? Are you calling it 5? Are you calling it 6?
I'd call it 6. Yeah, I don't think if he gets past 5, I'd be calling.
I agree. I think 6 is a spot. I think if in any way, shape, or form he falls past the Jets, I think you have to make him.
Yep. And this is a good point from Ozzy. The DT class is great. It is deep. Honestly,
but I give Ozzy 2 points. Point number 1 is that I think that Mason Graham is that elite.
Yes.
I think that he's that good of a player. And then number 2, I think that we need multiple interior defensive linemen or multiple defensive linemen for our defense. So you're going to need to take multiple guys. So even if you take Mason Graham, you might still be taking another guy that can play on that line with him in round 3, round 4, round 5.
Yep.
And also on this Genty to the Jaguars thing, I've seen that picking up steam. To me, and look, I might be wrong, and I'll say Thursday night that I was wrong. I think that's a smokescreen. I think that the Jaguars have 2 decent running backs as a deep class, and I think that someone is trying to get a team to jump up in front of the Raiders to take them.
Yeah. Travis Etienne's a free agent after this year, right? And he's been dealing with injuries.
Yeah, but Tank Bigsby had a great year. And I don't see it. But look, this is the Jacksonville Jaguars we're talking, and if anybody's going to do something that jumps off the wall and we don't see coming, it could be them.
Yeah, but they no longer have Baalke. Like, seriously, Trent Baalke is the biggest dumbass GM I've ever seen. Like, for everybody who hates on Chris Greer, be glad he's better than Trent Baalke, but that is the lowest compliment you can give someone. That is the lowest level of a compliment. On to the next one. We have Calvin Banks, who, again, I will say, I think we kind of forgot about him too easily. I believe even when we started the draft coverage this year, Jordan, I said I had him as one of the 7 elite players in the draft.
I think he was up there. Like when we
had us taking him in the first one.
I think we mocked him to us the first time we did a mock.
We did, yeah. Quick feet, yeah. Great fit yes, he is a great fit. This might be my hot take is if you draft Calvin Banks, the Dolphins, he is an immediate all-pro left guard right away because of our scheme. Weapon at the second level, absolutely. Him and Brewer. What's that?
I don't think that's crazy. I think our offense gets a lot better at him.
Yep. Weapon at second level, absolutely. You put him and Brewer on the second level, it's going to open up the run game. Always in control, and then longer edge rushers can. Yes, Calvin Banks had some pretty rough film as a.
Do you think that kind of gets mitigated at guard?
Yes, absolutely. But he did have some rough film in the pass pro this past year. Shout out to Sebastian for joining the chat as well. But yeah, no, Calvin Banks, I think, thinking about it, he would be my first non-corner. And so I think I'm changing my top 5 for 13 to Johnson, Barron, Banks, and then Harmon and Grant. You can argue either way for that.
I don't know. I'm so torn. And I think that's assuming that the other 2 offensive linemen are gone.
Yep.
I think that's fair.
Yep.
All right, get to your Tyler Warren hate. Here we go.
This is not Tyler Warren hate. I'm just going to give a little balance. Great receiver.
Give us your hate.
Focal point of the passing attack. If you mean focal point, I will rephrase that to just say the Nittany Lion passing attack, which is fair. Versatile. Yes, he played all over the field. He is very versatile. Red zone target. Yep. Extremely physical player, strong hands in traffic. Yes, I would add that he's good. He has very good ball control or hand, and he sits in the zone well. So he is a very good. He's very good at that. Willing blocker, but needs technique refinement. Absolutely. I think some people also do read too much in his numbers because if he wasn't getting involved, Penn State could not do anything offensively. And as you saw against Notre Dame, when Drew Aller had to go to anybody but Tyler Warren, Drew Aller looked like Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to hate, I will just say this. I don't think it's a good use of resources, but I would be fine and happy drafting Tyler Warren at 13. I just think people got to realize he is not Brock Bowers.
I have Tyler Warren a little higher on my list, I think, than you do. I personally have him above Jahdae Barron, just because I think he's that tier of player, and I would like to add him to the offense. I keep going back to the two negatives on Barron, but also we need a corner bad enough that I'd be okay with it. But I also think that the next guy on your list, if available, needs to be the pick.
Yep. Will Johnson, highly instinctual paired with great ball skills. Yes, he has the best ball skills in the class. Smooth player for a long corner. Yep. Big plays. Yep. I think he's got 6 pick sixes in his career. Makes big plays, make moments. Yes. Bump and run, bump and jam coverage of any corner. Yep. Long speed. I will not agree with this. Potential chronic knee injury. Again,
now Mr. S is just taking shots.
Yeah. There have been some concerns come out because of his knee. Todd McShay is one of them. I would not listen to Todd McShay. Albert Breer, I will give him trash for being an Ohio State fan, but I will listen to. I would say the bigger issue with Will Johnson, and I've said this before, is he will gamble. So the big weakness for him is if you run, if the receiver does an out move, an in and out, he will jump on it, and he has gotten beat for it because of that. So there is the issue there. People talking about the injuries before this past year, he missed 2 games, and they were because Jim Harbaugh had a thing where if a player was a little hurt and you were not playing a big game, you sat. And he played 24 of 26 possible games coming into this year. And then he got hurt. He got the turf toe, and then he hurt his hamstring trying to rush back from it. So I think some of the injury concerns are overblown. Knee injury, I won't say it's overblown. I won't say it's overblown, but I think people are overblowing the injury concerns as a whole. And again, I just think he's too good to pass up if he's there. Like, you just don't pass up on that kind of skill.
I totally agree.
Colston Loveland.
He said to click on Johnson.
Click on Johnson. Okay. Colston Loveland, elite wide receiver. Huge catch radius yet, separate with quickness. Not much of a blocker right now. Colston Loveland's a better blocker than I think people give him credit for. I will say that.
He said, yeah, there are more down there.
Yep. Do you have anything to say about Colston Loveland?
I don't think he should be the pick at 13, but I think if we trade down a couple spots, he could be that guy there.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the round 2, guys. What do you think, Brett?
Okay. Xavier Watts.
All right, let's do this. Let's pause for a second. Out of the guys Mr. S listed, if we are building Brett's dream Dolphin draft, which guy from round 1 did we take?
Will Johnson.
Okay, so we're in agreement. Dolphins take Will Johnson at 13. We're on to pick 48.
Yep. Xavier Watts. I actually do like this. I would actually say if we got a safety, Xavier Watts would be my top guy. Instincts off the chart, yes. Ball hawk,
He's your
yes.
top guy over Starks and Emanwari?
For who I would take for us.
Okay.
Yeah, not overall, but for us, I think he makes sense. I do not want to. I would understand taking either Starks or Emanwari in round 1, but I do not want to. Ball hawk, yes. Versatile, can play deep, box, yep. Cerebral, Yep, missed tackles, that is an issue, mainly because in the Baltimore defense, you need a very sure tackler. I think he's a good target. If we went in with safety in round 2, like I said, he'd be my target there. But I also think I believe Chris Greer when he says we've got our starting safeties in
I do
the
too. I
team.
do too.
And I
And
think
I was banging my drum for a safety a lot early in the year.
Yep.
And I was early in this draft process. And I've been talking about the safeties at nauseam, but I just don't think we're going to take one.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to take one either. But yeah, it's a good choice. It's a good choice for the position at least. Marcus Embo, again, my guy. Great fit for the scheme. Absolutely. Variety of pass sets, yes. I dare anybody to try and watch a full Purdue game. You cannot do it. They were awful. Good athlete. Yeah, him not testing well is kind of surprising. Quick feet. Good pass protector. Much add strength. Yes, he's fun to watch, but he does get beat up a little bit on the outside, which I think he's a pure guard. And inconsistent hand usage. Yeah, it's like watching an MMA fighter. Jordan, we know that Mason loves him. And I even saw on his Draft Network mock he has Embo going to the Eagles at 32, like he had in our draft.
Yeah.
He's a guy. If we drafted at 48, he may be a little too admittedly, he may be a little rawer than you want, and he might get beat a bit more than you expect. And to start out with, but I think he's just got such high potential. You got to take him.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, I don't know how much sense he makes for the Eagles because they want, I think, a bigger guy that's going to replace there. But I do think that for us, he's a guy with a lot of versatility that you could even see at some point if something happens to Brewer, move over to center. And I think he's a perfect fit for us at guard if he's there at 48.
Yep. Carson Sweatson
guy is one that Mr. S loves. And I saw for Carson that people were talking about him maybe falling into the back end of the first round.
I've seen that. We're not taking a linebacker. Sorry to say this, but you got Jordan Brooks. You sign Willie Gay, even if it's a 1-year deal. You re-sign Dotson. We're not taking a linebacker. But yeah, extremely physical linebacker who stacks and sheds blocks. Great closing burst to ball carrier, above average instincts, gap shooter, sideline to sideline range. He's a little small. Yes, I agree with everything there. He's a great player. He's not going to Detroit. He basically screams what Detroit did with Jack Campbell, who I know pretty much every Dolphin fan loved too. But we're just not going linebacker. So it's just, to me, it's unfortunate. I apologize, Mr. S. He's a great player, but he's just not worth talking about. Yeah, for pure best player, but it's like I hate to call you out on this, but it's like the Jason Verrett talk we had years ago, where we weren't taking Jason Verrett. So why are we wasting time on Jason Verrett? That's an argument for a decade Mr. S and I have had because of that. So that's just one I got to bring up.
You just wanted to get that out.
It is. Jonas Avenea. Yeah, we talk about him a lot. Leadership, plays all over the line. Nimble pass protector, knows how to use his hands, needs to get stronger, finesse blocker. So you basically just described a Dolphin guard. So
I think he's very likely to be one of the guys in consideration at 48. So you're building your best draft. Who are you taking at 48?
Embo. I'm just gambling on I'm just gambling right there. I think he's just that good. So
yeah, I think if we're talking about leaving round 2 and waiting for pick 98 with Will Johnson and Marcus Embo, I think you're in really good shape.
Yeah, and if you get that, Will Johnson and Embo, what are you targeting in round 3 at that point?
I think you have to start
years in there too.
I think you have to start looking at the defensive tackles. I think that because McDaniel's who he is, I think there's a chance you take a running back. But to me, I think you have to take a defensive tackle there because you're gonna, like I said earlier, you might even need another one. So I think that one of those guys at 98, whether it's a Dealon Walker, whether it's a Darius Alexander, whether it's a Joshua Farmer, if one of those other guys starts to fall, I think you're kind of in a place where, and those guys are good. Those guys I just named are good football players. Ty Hamilton, I know people have talked about as well.
Malik Williams.
Yeah, and you can go down the list. So I think there are a number of guys at 98 in that defensive tackle room that you can add to this team that are going to make a difference.
Yep. So we'll say that. I'll say this. I expect, if not starters, unless you take a quarterback to develop, for the first 4 rounds, is it fair for Dolphins fans to expect, if not starters, heavy contributors?
Yes. I think in the first 100 picks, you should get that. And we have 4 in the top 118. So yeah, you got like Mr. S is saying there, you gotta take a guy that really is gonna just add a starter to your team come September. And although it's hard to trade down from 13, that's why I said before that even if you have to take a little bit less than value, it might be worth it going from 13 to, let's say, even 16, 17, somewhere right in there, even if it gets you a third, 4th round pick.
Yeah, I agree. Because if you can walk out with, like, this is a good draft to have the needs we do. I know a lot of people have been complaining that we've pigeonholed ourselves in who we can draft. Honestly, I think you could walk away with 2 starting corners in this draft in the first 3 rounds.
I'm cool with that. I'm very cool with that, and that's great because tomorrow night, as we said earlier, for those listening, come back. We'll be on around the same time, and we're going to do a full first round mock, and also we're going to do a Dolphins 7-round mock based on that mock. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and maybe I can convince Brett. We'll start the mock right at the top of the show, and maybe even go 2 rounds tomorrow night.
Oh God, that's going to be tough. We'll see.
I said I was going to try to talk you into it. I didn't say I was going to be successful.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, we're about an hour into this. We'll do that. We're also hoping to do some content specifically for the YouTube channel, get some of that up. Maybe we'll have Jordan do another guess the top 5 list for who we're going to draft like last year.
Oh, I like that.
Where Jordan had us drafting Xavier Worthy. Also, shout out to our friends at the Dive Bar. They are going live at 7 p.m. in about a half hour.
Yes,
so definitely give them a listen. But yeah, Jordan, before we sign out, anything else you want to add today?
Not at all, man. It was a great show. I'm happy to be back. WrestleMania weekend, although people could talk their talk on social media and make it this all out to be such a negative thing, there is nothing more fun than sitting in a stadium full of 60,000 people cheering for wrestlers. Like this world is so serious sometimes. And to be able to go out there and do that, I'm grateful for the opportunity. And Jordan also would like to announce that Sebastian's pick is imminent and will be taking place soon. So make sure, in addition to the Dive Bar at 7, go check out Sebastian's pick, which is coming soon.
Just know he was a jinx this past year. So as good as he was 2 years ago, he was bad luck this year. So I don't know if I want him making a pick.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. But all right, everybody definitely enjoy the night. Maybe I will sing tomorrow because we're a night away from the draft. Like I said,
you're gonna sing?
Maybe we'll see.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, positive vibes for everybody. See y'all over in the at the Dive Bar. Mr. S is giving me shit right now. I don't care. That is a good time to end the stream. Everybody have a good night.
Peace, everybody. See you tomorrow. Happy draft week.